Well, we are going to talk about this hour, and that is liquefied natural gas. Ooh, sounds exciting, right?
We're going to make it sexy and exciting.
Yes, we
are. I kind of get jacked up on stuff like this, believe it or not. The prospect of, and these plants don't look that big, but they cost a bunch of money. And then I think, who writes the insurance policies on these things?
Well, you can ask our guest that question.
You just go to your agent and he writes the policy, or they have to come look at it to make sure what the deal is. Our guest is James Markham Hill. He is manager of communications for Rio Grande LNG. And they're one of the 3 companies, I believe, seeking government permission to put their liquefied natural gas plant terminals at the Port of Brownsville. Am I right about that?
That's correct.
Now, James, I want to ask you, where are y'all from?
Where am I from, or where are we from?
We from, Rio Grande Valley LNG. Like, are you guys, why Brownsville out of all places?
So our company is based out of the Woodlands, which is just north of Houston. Mm-hmm. And we came down to the Port of Brownsville probably 2-3 years ago, looking for potential sites for a liquefied natural gas export facility. And what we found was a really ideal location. Specifically, for a facility like this, you're looking for a place that has adequate sites, adequate land, access to the Gulf of Mexico, a deep water channel like we have here in the Port of Brownsville, and adequately apart from populations, places of residences. Yeah. So
there's
all of these
wants
things.
A natural gas terminal in their backyard. Is that kind of
Exactly. Yeah. Although you could. I've lived right next door to one for a number of years.
Really?
Build one behind Davis's house. That'd be great.
They're not like if you picture the refinery at Three Rivers, that big, humongous thing that you can see light up. It doesn't look anything like that. I mean, these are actually pretty low to the ground in some ways. So let's start at the beginning and assume people don't know what liquefied natural gas is. What is that?
Yeah, so liquefied natural gas, it's simply natural gas like you would have coming to your stove, heating your water at home, and liquefied. And the way that we do that is we supercool it in what we call a liquefaction train, which is just our word for a very expensive refrigerator. And that takes that natural gas to minus 260 Fahrenheit. And when you do that, it becomes a liquid, and it shrinks by a factor of 600. So the reason we do this is to export, to transport it over long distances. Instead of having to send 600 ships with natural gas on, you can send one LNG carrier.
Now,
600? I almost missed that.
So,
good Lord.
Yeah, instead of sending 600 natural gas carriers, you just send one liquefied natural gas.
Have you ever seen, can you hold liquefied natural gas in your hand?
Well, I wouldn't recommend it because it is minus 260 Fahrenheit. So
really
it is very, very cold. So if you imagine it, you wouldn't want to pick up liquid nitrogen. It's the same sort of thing. And that's actually one of the main of a few hazards that come with LNG is that it's very, very cold, so you don't want to touch it.
You said what it is, but can you tell us why is it important?
So natural gas, for one, is one of the reasons why we in the U.S. have such incredible blue skies that we get to enjoy all over the world, all over here, down at South Padre Island. You enjoy that beautiful blue sky. And in many ways, it is directly attributable to natural gas as opposed to other forms of power like coal or diesel or oil. I used to live in China, and I tell people, if you want to see pollution, and I mean see it because you can't see through it, then go to China.
I mean, they're even selling, just jars of air? And I saw that one time when they were selling, they're literally selling a jar. That's it. And it's air. Anyway, so continue.
No, it's absolutely right. And the thing is, these countries like China, countries like India, Pakistan, for many, many years, the last several decades, they've had tremendous growth, huge economic development, and they've done it on the back of cheap coal. And what they're seeing now is that their population is paying the price, their environment is paying the price, and it's hard to breathe.
Sorry, I have a question. You have a lot of people out there that are all climate change. Why don't they point the finger at China and India to do something about it first instead of saying here in America we need to combat global warming? Sorry.
So no, that's a great question, and I think people really are pointing the finger at them. And finally, thankfully, countries like China are taking this seriously, and they're wanting to make a change. And one of the ways that they're going to do that is through the use of natural gas, through U.S.-produced LNG exported right here in the Port of Brownsville.
So you pipe it Well, let me back up. There are 3 companies who want to be able to put their plants there and export the liquefied natural gas. They've got to get the port's approval. Port's all for this, as I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to get the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to approve it. Where are you in that? Speaking of trains, where are you in that train of events?
So, yeah, you're absolutely correct. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or as we affectionately call the FERC, is the major federal agency in charge of permitting projects like ours. And we began the formal process with them about a year ago. And we've probably got another year to 16 months before they're going to make a decision on our projects.
So you're pretty close. Right?
I mean, we're getting there.
You're pretty close. I mean, a year and a half, 16 months. However, it's not a long time. And now, is that before you start actually building stuff, or just you get the okay to?
That would be before we get the okay.
Okay.
So right now, our expectation is another year or so to get our permits, and then we would make a final investment decision, and construction starting roughly mid to late 2017, and that would go on for a period of between 5 and 7 years potentially. But our first exports, which would mean our first revenue, would come at the end of 2020.
There are, I should tell people, we're talking with James Markham Hill. He is their communications manager for a company called Next Decade. Rio Grande liquefied natural gas is part of Next Decade. Do I have that right or have it back?
That's correct. Next Decade is the parent company and developer of these projects. We're a portfolio LNG company, which means that we develop LNG projects around the world. And right now our focus is really on this Rio Grande LNG project.
So this is not the only one you all have ever done?
No, not at all. Actually, we have a really incredible team that I have the privilege to work with on a day-to-day basis. For just to give you an idea of the level of experience that they have, in terms of contracts of LNG, our company and the members within it, we've been involved in about 20% of all LNG contracts that are currently in existence today. And we've also been involved from inception to execution, roughly 19 LNG infrastructure projects around the world. That's import, export, land-based, floating. So we know what we're doing.
What do you went to the local governments and asked them to get on board. Some have, surprising number around there didn't want to, they don't want to do that. What are you all doing is it coming this next week?
Yeah, you're doing workshops. And I wanted to ask
right.
you if you can tell us about your workshops.
Yes, absolutely. So, our project, and I don't think we covered it, but our project is potentially a $20 billion investment. That's billion with a B. So
that's the largest one of the 3, isn't it?
It is the largest of the 3.
He's like, yeah, you should have seen him pop his collar when he said that.
Well, it's radio. You can't.
Hey, it's not his money. It's not his. They make you sign the note on that, or does your owner have to sign the note?
No. So we have to work with a number of banks to get financing for a project of this scale. But to go back to your question, this is a major project, and for the construction process operations, we are going to have tremendous needs for goods and services, and millions, if not tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of those contracts can and should go to businesses in the valley. The difficulty is that a lot of companies in the region haven't had that experience working with industry before. So next week, we'll be hosting 5 different vendor workshops for interested businesses throughout the valley to go, tell them, just in general, what is our project about? What are the goods and services that we're going to need? And importantly, how can you as a company go from being just interested to becoming a fully pre-qualified vendor or subcontractor?
Now,
how hard is it to sell stuff to you? What is it? Why do y'all have to? What's pre-qualification? What if Roxanne says, I want to sell you, what do you want to sell them? Caliche rock. I want to sell them caliche rock. What kind of pre-qualification? Well, I was going to say something sexist, like cookies. I want to sell them cookies.
Hey, we need cookies. Everyone needs cookies.
So what kind of pre-qualification, what are you all looking for?
So the pre-qualification process, every business that is going to do work with us, contract with us, they have to do this large questionnaire. And a lot of it involves, background experience, your credit worthiness, also your safety record, particularly if you're on the subcontractor side. Safety is tantamount. And you have to be able to demonstrate that. But when you come across a business that say, we have a potential $20 million contract, and they've never done a $20 million contract before, they may have credit or bonding issues. And we want to work with them now so that they can look to see, okay, how can I work on this? How can I get around this bonding issue? And perhaps it means partnering with agencies like the SBA, the Small Business Alliance, and working with that forward so that they can, be eligible for those contracts. Because if we wait until we start tendering them, a lot of businesses are going to miss out. And that's what these workshops are for. It's to give the greatest opportunity for local businesses to participate in our project.
Now, how are these local businesses going to benefit if they do participate or if they become part of the Rio Grande LNG?
Well, it'll be, direct business contracts. It's, if you're a paper supplier, I tell people, some businesses are like, I don't know anything about LNG. And I say, that's fine. You're a paper company. You don't need to know anything about LNG, but we still need paper.
You just don't go to Staples to get paper? You just don't send some? No, you want the paper delivered? Is that what you want?
We do. Yeah, we're quite demanding that way.
It's $20 billion. Okay, Davis.
Who in the world would be qualified down here to do any kind of construction work, or is that in prospect? You're not looking for contractor for
We're looking for certain subcontractors. So we already have our main engineering and construction company. It's a company called Chicago Bridge and Iron, or CB&I, and they're one of the world's preeminent LNG engineering construction firms. However, they are still going to need additional help. They're going to need additional subcontractors to work with them for the construction and ongoing operations of our facilities.
Now, back to the workshops. Is it just for businesses, or if somebody just wants to know more about LNG, can they go?
They can.
Where can we go to visit or just call?
Spy.
Yeah.
Be a fly on the wall.
Yeah. These workshops are geared towards businesses. And the way it's going to be, each one is roughly 3 hours long, and we're going to do a full project overview, which, that would benefit anybody who's interested in learning. And then after that, we'll move on to talking about the specific goods and services, and then a substantial portion will be going through a roadmap of how that interested business can become pre-qualified and what that process looks like.
Now, I want to know, is there a website you guys have that we can give to people who do want to know more about LNG, why it's important, why it's going to benefit the Rio Grande Valley?
Absolutely. And, anyone that's interested, I really do encourage you to visit our website. It's riograndelng.com. On there, you can find out everything about the project. You can see what it's going to look like. You can see what it's going to look like from South Padre. And also, for those businesses that are interested in the workshops, there's an RSVP form on there. You can go ahead, put in your company's business details, and check the box, I want to go to the event in Harlingen. And then I'll know ahead of time.
Are they all throughout the valley, or is it just in Harlingen?
No, so we have on Tuesday, which is the 12th, this coming Tuesday, from 9 a.m. to noon in Brownsville at the Brownsville Event Center. And then on Wednesday the 13th, we've got another one on South Padre Island at the Hilton Garden Inn from 9 a.m. to noon. The afternoon of that Wednesday is Harlingen at the TSTC campus from 2 to 5. And then on Thursday the 14th, we're going to have 2 workshops, both at the McAllen Chamber of Commerce, the first from 9 a.m. to noon and the second from 1 to 4 p.m.
You happen to know what percentage of your total purchasing is done locally once you get up and running? Because there's a lot of money spent to build these things, but as I remember, they're not enormous crews of people who continue, because they don't. One of the geniuses is you don't need a lot of people to operate them. I don't think.
Well, relatively speaking, no, you don't need a huge amount. But when we're looking at our project, we're still talking about more than 200 permanent, well-paid positions during operations.
I was wrong about that then.
So, it depends on your definition
I thought
of
it
a
was more
lot.
like 30.
No. For our facility, we're talking about probably a base of about 200, and then that number will climb as the project develops. But from the construction...
I missed what y'all are talking about. I'm sorry. You're talking 200 what? Employees? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Permanent, full-time employees once we reach operations.
Okay.
What happens if petroleum prices don't rise by 2020 when you hope to go online after you get the permission you hope for? You got this enormous investment, and when you started, oil and gas was at a certain level, and now it's way below that.
Yeah. So that's a really good question, and I think something that you have to recognize is for a business like this, we look at the long-term picture. And the prices of oil, prices of natural gas, they fluctuate up and down. And the one thing that I know people typically they can be certain of is they don't know what's going to happen with oil. But they know it's not going to stay the same. And when you're talking to businesses, you're talking to countries around the world, and they're looking to purchase natural gas, they want stability, they want long-term contracts. So for our project, we're talking about 20-year contracts or longer for many of these businesses. So
the information that Mr. James Markham Hill just gave us is on their website at, what is it again?
It's RioGrandeLNG.com.
Okay, RioGrandeLNG.com has everything you need to know. If you want to get some business, this is a good way to go about it. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to 710 KURV.